Hello everyone, today we're going to learn the daily Tanya for Yurchet Sivan Tafshin Pei Dalet. So we spoke yesterday about how the contraction of Hashem's light or life-giving force, sort of Hashem's concealment of the life-giving force, is not, as some might think, um, indicative of distance from Hashem, but it itself is an act of God, and it is an act on the part of Hashem which exists in order to grant you your own existence. Your existence is a gift. And now we're sort of going to continue that, and we're going to kind of wrap up the question that we started Sha'arei Chuvei Emunah with. Okay, so we see from how gvura or rigor can actually be something that creates and serves chesed, and is actually a way that chesed is revealed and done in the world. So how Hashem's sort of different traits kind of bleed into one another and include one another. We can see clearly that Hashem and his traits are one. They are completely united. So because they're completely united to Hashem, they are therefore completely united to each other, and they include each other. They are all, you can say, working together, but not merely as separate pieces of a grand whole, but in the sense that they include each other even. They include each other within themselves. Eliyahu, and as Eliyahu Navi says in Ptichas Eliyahu, okay, and as it says in the mystical text called the Statements of Eliyahu Navi, and he says, and you are he who ties them together and unites them, and so on. And aside from you, there is no unity, and without you, there is no unity or union in the higher places. Okay, so here we're going to explain, here we're going to get to sort of answer, or at least beginning to really answer the question we started with. Okay, and this is what it means to say that you shall remind yourself again and bring to heart that Hashem is the Elokim. Perush, what does this mean? Sheshnei shemot elu hem echad mamash. Okay, that these two names, Shem Havaya and Shem Elokim, are one. They're one thing. They're two names of one thing. Shegam Shem Elohim hametzamtzem uma'alim ha'or. Right. So even the name Elokim, which is all about sort of concealing Hashem's sort of animating spirit that he bestows upon the world, hu b'chinat chesed, it is part of the bestowal of that very existence upon the world. K'mo Shem Havaya, just like the name Havaya, which is one that talks directly about that bestowal of the life-giving essence. Mishum shemidotav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu mityachodot imo b'ichud gamur, because Hashem's traits, Hashem's attributes, are completely united with him. V'hu u'shmo echad, and he and his name are one. Shemidotav hen shmotav, that his and his attributes are names of his, especially in the world of Atzilus. When we talk about how Hashem is united to his attributes, in the world of Atzilus, it really is much more akin to this notion of there's sort of one thing and we're kind of looking at it from different perspectives. But here, the Alter Rebbe is showing us how even when we use these different names for Hashem, we're still looking at one thing. It's one phenomenon, if you will. Or noumena, but whatever, for all you Kantians out there. And therefore, and when you see this, it'll become clear and obvious that there is nothing else besides Hashem up in the sky and upon the land. Pirush, what does this mean? This is a continuation of the pasuk. שגם הארץ החומרית, שנראית יש גמור לעין כל. Okay, so this means that even this physical earth that we see, that it looks like it has its own existence, היא עין ואפס ממש לגבי הקדוש ברוך הוא. Right? Because even its the granting of its existence is not caused by the interplay between God and something else, right? As some of the Platonists might have believed, right? If you look at the Timaeus, right, there is this notion of this one God, and he's the artisan, he creates the world, but he creates it using primordial material. And here, the Alter Rebbe is very clear in saying that there is no primordial material that God is working with. What God is working with is the concealment of his own light, of his own being, but this concealment is still an act that he is performing. This concealment is still something that he is doing. So it's still something that he is doing. So therefore, there really is no other ground of existence aside from Hashem himself. כי שם אלוקים אינו מעלים ומצמצם אלא לתחתונים, right? Because the name Elokim, all it is a concealment of Hashem's light. But Hashem is not concealing this light from himself. Hashem is the one bestowing the light, and he is the one also concealing the light. So as far as he's concerned, he's just as present in both circumstances. ולא לגבי הקדוש ברוך הוא, מאחר שהוא ושמו אלוהים אחד, right? Because his names refer to one being. So, like I said, he's equally present both in the bestowing of life and in the granting it its independence, its quote unquote independence. At least its feeling of independence. ולכן גם הארץ ומתחת לארץ, right? And therefore the land and that which is under the earth, הן עין ואפס ממש, are nothing and nil לגבי הקדוש ברוך הוא, because their existence doesn't involve anything else other than God. ואינן נקראות בשם כלל, and as far as Hashem is concerned, there's no name for them. There's nothing you could even call them. You couldn't pick out their existence. You couldn't point out their existence. Afilu b'shem od, they aren't even called od, which is more. Shu lashon tafer, which is say something that is, it's not even a byproduct. It's not even something that is a sort of, it's not even a residue. K'ma'amar Razal, Yehuda v'od, right? So he's giving examples of the word od being used as kind of residue. Likra. V'cheguf shu tafel neshama v'chayut shebetocho, right? So he's saying that Hashem's relationship towards the world doesn't even leave any residue at all. Whereas you could look at the body as kind of a residue, or something that is sort of surrounding the soul, but not the major point. It's just kind of a way of it sort of perpetuating itself out into the world. וזה שכתוב, הללה השם בחיי, אז אמרה לאלוקי בעודי. Okay, so that's what it means. I shall praise Hashem in my life. I shall sing to Elokim, Elokai, be'odi, while I still remain. שהחיים נמשכים משם הוויה, because the life is drawn from Shem Havaya, from the name of Hashem. V'ha'od, which is the still, right, remaining, right? Shehu haguf, which is the body, hatafel mishem Elokim. It comes from the name Elokim. לפי שהנשמה אינה מהווה את הגוף מאין ליש. Okay, so there can still be something that remains after we discuss the soul. If we discuss the neshama, we can still talk about the body as remaining, right? But with Hashem in the world, it's a whole other level. אבל הקדוש ברוך הוא המהווה את הכל מאין ליש, right? But Hashem, who generates the world ex nihilo all the time and constantly is both giving the world life and concealing his light so that the world can sort of retain its own sense of self. הכל בטל במציאות אצלו, כמו השמש בשמש. Okay, so everything is just there's no proper place to say that the world ends and Hashem begins, because again, Hashem is generating the world and Hashem is allowing the world to exist by concealing his light so as not to just overwhelm all of existence and unite it in one sort of amorphous kind of life force. So that kind of theologically, it's a very brilliant move. It does rely on us fundamentally being humble and admitting that we cannot understand creation ex nihilo, and that therefore we also cannot explain or we cannot understand how things can exist um, the way they do. These are just things that we as human beings can't understand, and a little bit of humility might go a long way. So, all right, take care.